Hello Guild Wars 2 gamers, Mucklick here, and we are back with another episode of I Tried, where I try out something that is outside of my expertise for a day and see how it feels. Is the grass greener on the other side? Is it any good? What are the pain points of it? Yada, yada, yada. So today's focus is on the healing quickness providing Ritualist, the new Visions of Eternity elite specialization added to Necromancer in, well, Visions of Eternity. So what was the gear set that I was using? I was running full Harrier's gear with, I believe, a couple of pieces of givers just right here, just to give me a little bit more tankiness. Dagger and Warhorn, rarely used, but sometimes. And Staff, used 95% of the time. Rune of Water, and Relic of the Midnight King, helping with Might and Fury uptime. That is what we're running on this page. Oh, concentration and transference on the two sigils. Going over to the build, this is the build right here. Now, really quick pointing out, if you were to look up the heal build on Snowcrows for the heal Ritualist, they would say to take Soul Twisting. And mathematically, that is probably correct. It's probably better. However, I feel like if you're not playing Lingering Spirits, you're not playing a Ritualist. Lingering Spirits is what keeps your spirits out. And without it, when you summon your spirits and then you leave Shroud, they immediately despawn. And I feel like that is very against what this spec was meant to be. So one, when you use Lingering Spirits, they stay out and you can keep them out 100% of the time that you're in a fight, which is more damage, but if you're the healer, that's not your job. But also, you have access to their special abilities. If you look right here, these skills are currently locked because I don't have spirits out. When you have this trait, these are available to you 100% of the fight. They're always out. And one of them gives your group Aegis and 5 stacks of stability. So it's very nice to be able to hit this button anytime you want. And not only have access to that button, you know, half of the time or 40% of the time. As an added bonus, Lingering Spirits at the time of this recording, I say that because I feel like they might nerf it in the future. It also gives 15% bonus damage, 50% movement speed, much easier for you to get around the arena, and 20% increase to all your healing output. So you getting all of that and access to this all the time, and the trade-off is you don't have Soul Twisting or Wielder's Boon. I am very happy with Lingering Spirits. I wish it was baseline. Not all the bonuses, but just the fact that your spirits are always out. I wish it was baseline. This class is based on the Guild Wars 1 Ritualist. When they summoned a spirit, there was no Shroud mechanic. So there was no, oh, if I go out of this mode, all my spirits die. No, they were just pretty much always out. And so I feel like not having that baseline is kind of silly, but that's a conversation for another video. I was playing Lingering Spirits, so everything I talk about is including that, but the other options are also great depending on what you're doing. I was running Flesh Golem, but you could easily take Zenrei's Weapon depending on the fight. Zenrei's Weapon basically is if a big hit hits your squad, I should say party, if a big hit hits your party and it does more than 15% of their health and damage, but it doesn't kill them, most of it is healed back up. So if they go from 100% health down to 1, they'll snap back up to 95. It is a very niche situation, but it does give a stack of stability, and also if it gets procced, it also smacks the thing that hits them for like 2k. So that's nice too. So this absolutely has some solid uses, very similar uses to things like Rebound, but not quite the same. Flesh Golem is a great pick also, just because it still has one of the largest CCs in the game. For new players, Flesh Golem, when you use its activatable ability, it will charge in a straight line and do a knockdown on everything it passes through. If the target is thick, it will do multiple knockdowns as it passes through the thick target. So as far as the Flesh Golem is concerned, the bigger the better. Same is also true with the Revenant Staff Interrupt, where they twirl the staff and charge forward in a line. The bigger the better. Okay, so because of that, he has got a very unique CC, and also he's a bit of constant damage. He's always there punching whatever you're punching and doing his thing. Relatively short cooldown too, 40-second cooldown for a big CC. Well of Blood brings up this right here. If you run Ritual of Life, you can, that makes your Well of Blood revive people. So basically, when you throw Well of Blood down, it does constant pulsing healing in an area, but also pulsing reviving in an area. Kind of like a caffeine-free diet, 0-calorie Glyph of the Stars. Additionally, when you start reviving someone who's downstate, you will trigger Lesser Well of Blood, which is a weaker form of the exact same thing. So if there's a pile of downstate people, you can use Well of Blood and then start reviving one. That'll trigger Lesser Well of Blood, and you've got 2 wells. You'll see a ton of green numbers, and you are manually reviving one guy, but you're helping revive everyone else. And the other option is Overflowing Thirst. If you take Overflowing Thirst, every time you use a dagger skill, your group will siphon a bit of life. So if you take this and then you swap to your dagger and your warhorn, anytime you use the 2 or the 3 or the third hit on the 1, you will trigger the Overflowing Thirst. You can see it on the tooltip over there. So both of those are decent options. I really like having a AoE revive option. Additionally, Well of Blood is also just a very nice heal. So if your group is low, that you could just throw this down. You're not just save this for emergencies, but you can use it for emergencies. But this is also a lot of healing over a few seconds and does regeneration. The other option here would be Resilient Weapon, which is also a solid healing option. This is the Ritualist specific one, but I was using Well of Blood. I really like having an emergency AoE revive tool. It was extremely useful, and it's also a lot of fun in metas. You know, it's a crappier Glyph of the Stars, but on a 25-second cooldown instead of a minute cooldown. Other options here. You've got a lot of flexibility here. None of these are required. There's a lot of supports that cannot say that. That is the strength of this. A lot of supports cannot say that they have 3 flex slots for utilities. I was mostly running these 3 and would change it based on the situation. Signet of Undeath gives you passive life force generation. You honestly don't need it. You're just fine without that. And you can activate it to res someone up to that far away. So you give up some health, it's worth knowing that, and you just emergency res someone out there. The Weapon of Warding, this one is unique to Ritualists. This one gives you a buff. It gives you 3 of that buff. It gives other people near you 1 of that buff. And it says it blocks an attack. Once the last stack of the buff is consumed, the target will gain protection. Now, you're already putting out protection, they're already gonna have that, but it's still pretty cool. Also, they get regen. So Weapon of Warding, it's a stun break on you, it blocks hits on you and allies near you, and there's regen and protection involved. It's a very cool tool. However, I'm not yet positive if it works on everything Aegis works on, because this is essentially Aegis, but it's not called Aegis. So because it's not a boon, it can't be removed, dispelled, or corrupted off of you, which has its own set of strengths. And the fact that on you, it's 3 stacks. So you put it on yourself and it will go block, block, block. It stacks on itself, which Aegis does not do. Aegis is just 1 block and then it's gone. So very interesting tool. Still trying to figure out if it acts exactly like Aegis or if it's slightly different, but very good tool for giving you a breather, stopping all the damage on your party for just a second, and also refreshing protection and regeneration on them. And it's a stun break. Sometimes the stun break is helpful. The other one I was often using was Nightmare Weapon. Nightmare Weapon basically buffs your weapon and the party's weapon. So if I use it on me, I get 5 stacks of this. You can see it's a little visual indicator there, and he got 3 stacks. Nightmare Weapon is the next time you hit something, you life siphon, which is bonus damage, 1300, and heal yourself for 1500. So you put this on your party, and effectively, over the next 3 hits, they will heal themselves for 4,500 healing. And you will trigger it 5 times, and you will heal yourself for closer to 6k. And it's also damage. So this one, I was pretty much hitting every time it lit up. It was topping off the party, and it was also adding some damage onto the boss. So that was really nice. Now, other options you could use here. Weapon of Remedy helps with condition cleansing. Didn't really need it, but you can use that. You could use Corrosive Poison Cloud if you're doing a fight that is going to require you to destroy enemy projectiles. This skill destroys all projectiles that enter this circle for the duration of it. So that would be really good for Dagda. Dagda wasn't one of the dailies I did today, but it would be really good for that. I would take that. Summon Fleshworm is very useful for some niche situations, like when you were fighting Whisper of Jormag. Now, I am so out of practice on Necro, I forgot to bring it to Jormag today, but it does simplify one of the mechanics of Whisper of Jormag, so this has some uses. And there's a handful of others here as well. Like if you need more CC, Spectral Grasp or Spectral Ring can add more in the CC department. If for some reason you're struggling with Might, Blood is Power can help with that, and so on and so on. There's a lot of useful tools in here. There are many support classes that do not have as nice of a toolbox as this. I still think Guardian and Mesmer have the nicest toolboxes down here, but the Necro one is quite solid. Coming from a Ranger main, I think there's more down here that are useful alternatives to work with than there is on my Ranger. But this is what I was running just like this 90% of the time. So when we're trying it on a fight, how does it work? So I'm just gonna run into this. This is a moderate damage field. And we're gonna run up to this guy. Spamming Staff 2 keeps regen and vigor. Staff 3 is just a big heal. So those 2 alone is a lot. And then also, I'm using Nightmare Weapon basically every time it lights up, okay? And so the alacrity is coming from the console, by the way. We're gonna go into Shroud, and we're gonna use 2, 3, and 4. You can do these in any order, depending on what you need. And you can use 5 if you need to reposition, and then leave Shroud, okay? F2 every time it's off cooldown, and that helps with Might and Fury. F3 is a very small CC, but it also gives you 10% life force, so if you just need life force, you can use that as well. And so now I'm just using staff 2 and 3 every time they light up. Shroud whenever it lights up, do 2, 3, 4 in whatever order you need, and 5 is optional. And then leave Shroud and do F2 and F3. And if you look at the boons, we've got Fury, 25 Might, Quickness, Prot, Vigor, Regen, and decent uptime on Resolution, because Shroud 4 does Resolution. So you're gonna have that a decent amount of time as well. When you have Lingering Spirits, you have the Spirits always out, which means you can use the F4 anytime you want. That's more resistance, Aegis, and stability. Additionally, your Staff 5 is stability. Staff 5 only has that 18-second cooldown. This is one of the shortest cooldowns of stability in the game. But, of course, it's on your staff, so you can only use it while you're in staff. So this brings us to one niche problem with the Rit. What's missing right here? If you said swiftness, you're right. All right, so swiftness. To get swiftness, what we need to do, and I'm gonna refresh these one more time, is swap to Dagger Warhorn. And Warhorn 5 is perma swiftness. It's a 24-second cooldown, 28-second duration. However, none of the other Dagger and Warhorn skills help with support. So it kind of feels like when I go to Warhorn that I give swiftness and then I'm trapped in it. I'm trapped in a crappy weapon for a few more seconds. So to combat that, what I tried to do is weapon swap to the Warhorn, use the 5 right before I go into Shroud. And now the time I'm in the Shroud is using up some of the time that I'm trapped in Dagger. So I was only stuck in Dagger for like 2 seconds. But you have a couple of choices there. One, you could do what I just mentioned, where you just try to overlap the Dagger with the Shroud so that you're stuck in it for less time. And option 2, I've kind of made my point here, I'll stop beating on the dummy. Option 2 is look to see if you really need swiftness. Some groups that I was with today they had swiftness covered without thinking about it. So I was just kind of keeping an eye on it, and if it wasn't needed, like just the spill over swiftness from other random people, if that was keeping it up, I just stayed staff the whole time. I literally just stayed staff the whole time. If swiftness was falling off, I would do the thing I just showed you to help keep it up. Because you never know when you're going to need it. Maybe some guy needs to run a red circle out and then run back to the group, and if he doesn't have that swiftness, he might not quite make it back before he runs out of health. You never know. But the point is I would kind of just eyeball it down here, and if I didn't have to provide it, I didn't, because it felt so much better to just stay in staff the whole time. Now, it's worth reminding you guys that if you take the Overflowing Thirst trait, when you're in Dagger, you are providing a bit of group healing from this trait while you're in Dagger. However, again, I really like having an AoE res in the back pocket on a juicy 25-second cooldown, so I opted to play like this, but there are other options available to you if you like them. So that's pretty much the gist of it. How did it feel to play? Quite good, quite good. It felt really good to play. If you compare it to the other Necro support spec that is very popular, is the support Scourge. Scourge, of course, has Barrier. This does not have Barrier. What does it have? It has more useful utilities. The Weapon of Warding, Scourge doesn't have that. The Nightmare Weapon, the Weapon of Remedy, the Zenray's weapon on the elite skill. Like, there's the Ritualist utilities are really good for support, and there's also some really good ones for damage. Nightmare 1 works for damage writ and also heal writ. Splinter Weapon is for damage writ, and Weapon of Remedy is a Condi Cleanse for the group, and Weapon of Warding is the block for the group and prod and regen. In Ritualist Shroud, the 3 spirits, because I don't think I covered this, when you use 2, that's just machine gun. That's a damage one. 3 is AoE, damage, and CC. So just make sure that circle is covering the target. And then the 4, let me recharge myself here. The 4 is a big heal and big condition cleanse around you. And so this is 7k healing and 4 conditions cleansed off 5 targets. That's 20 conditions cleansed total whenever you use the 4. So essentially, if you go into Shroud and the people are low health, use the 4 first, because you want to use 2, 3, and 4, but the order doesn't matter. So when you go into Shroud, use the 4 first, and then use the others, but if the groups are low health. But if they're not low health, then you could just do 2, 3, 4, and then 5 is just a reposition. Also, 5 makes each of them do something. When you use the 5, the damage one, the Anguish, will just do more damage. The 3, the Wanderlust one, will do another CC and more damage. and the 4, the preservation, will do a projectile blocking bubble. However, the fact that you needed to be in Shroud and have this available and have not used it yet, and the fact that it's a very short duration, I found this projectile blocking bubble difficult to summon when I needed it. So if I was in a fight where I needed projectile block, I would honestly bring CPC, Corrosive Poison Cloud, because that is just far more reliable. So that's my opinion on that, but it does do that. It is worth mentioning. So these 3 are, and then also they do damage. Another thing that's worth mentioning is the damage. So obviously, when you are playing in a party, damage is not your job if you are the healer, right? But that doesn't mean you shouldn't be trying to do damage. You should be trying to do damage when all your other roles are fulfilled. If you've got the boons up, you've healed the party, you've cleansed the conditions, you should be trying to do damage outside of that because that shortens the fight, and then there's less time for someone to make a mistake. Like, it is on your list of priorities, it's just low on there. This was my damage on Whisper of Jormak. There's also Bone Skinner. Now, Bone Skinner, the damage is a little inflated because the special action key on that fight. We see 6,900, nice. And then here's Whisper, 5,300, okay? And there is a, let's see, painful... Which one? Okay, there is the special action key on the Iceward Saga fights, but on average, across all of the strike missions I did today with this class, I did around 5k DPS while healing. The other person in the party was a Paragon, and they've got their own strengths and weaknesses. I'll do an I tried on that in the future, but Paragon guy was doing 500, so I was doing 10 times him. Now, there's a couple of supports that do good damage compared to other supports. Mechanist, Untamed are 2 examples of that off the top of my head. This is another one. This is another addition to the supports that do a lot of damage for a support. If this is your healer, the fight's gonna be that much shorter, which is awesome, and it does all the other jobs. So yeah, this had good damage, more than enough healing output. Whenever you are in Shroud, your Shroud is covering your hit points, so very high survivability, because half the time I couldn't even be hit. So that was really cool. And it supplies all the needed boons. You have stability on demand. You have an Aegis on demand. It just takes a little bit of setup, but once you have practice, you'll be fine. The stability's on a really short cooldown, really good CC. And for reviving tools, if you choose to bring what I brought, you've got the AoE revive with Well of Blood, the AoE revive with Lesser Well of Blood, and Signet of Undeath for a large cooldown, long distance single revive, and the Last Rites, which all the Necros have. So you got a lot of tools there. Condi Cleanse. Yeah, the Condi Cleanse is from Shroud 4 with the Preservation Spirit, which I already mentioned, and also Staff 4. Staff 4 removes conditions from all allies in this circle, and also moves some of those conditions to their enemies, which is really cool. It definitely has less condition cleanse than a Scourge. A Scourge pumps out a couple of condition cleanses every like 4.5 seconds or something with their one of their Shroud skills, and that's without all the other buttons on the bar. They have a condition cleanse every like 4.5 seconds. So Scourge is still king of the condition cleansing for the Necromancer skill stuff, but I felt like I had enough with this. And if you needed more, you could take Weapon of Remedy if you need even more. So that is an option. So yeah, I think that's it. This felt really solid, and my main complaint when I played this spec in the beta was that the spirits were tied to the Shroud, and these were shatters at the time. It felt like playing a Mesmer. It was like Green Mesmer. So it's like you would summon your dudes, and if you left Shroud, you killed your dudes, or if you used your F2 or your F3 or F4, you killed your dudes. It felt really silly. Now, the fact that they replaced these shatters with innervates, I love that. I love that. I appreciate that they accepted that feedback. I know many people, including myself, told them we don't like shattering the spirits. We're playing Rit because we want to play with the spirits. And then I still think the spirits being out permanently should be baseline. And then lingering spirits could still be like, oh, here's all these really nice passive bonuses. But I still think just the fact that the spirits stay out should be baseline. That should be a defining feature of the class. I hope that changes someday. But for now, I feel like it's only Rit if I have the boys with me, if the boys are out. But if I'm just going into Shroud, summon them, and then leave, then they despawn, like if you're playing with Soul Twisting, it's fine. It's effective. I just don't enjoy that. That doesn't feel like the Ritualist class fantasy to me. So I like playing with Lingering Spirits, so I like that it's an option. The new Lingering Spirits combined with the changes from Shatters to Innervates made this a class that I greatly enjoy. I really enjoyed playing this. I've been playing it for a little over 2 days now, and been doing it in strikes and stuff, as well as group metas, and really, really solid kit. It's got some flexibility and just downright having a good time. But yeah, that's it. Not too difficult to learn. Highly recommend it to anybody who, I sparked an interest in. It's very good at what it does. I don't know if it's going to get any nerfs. I mean, honestly, because of time editing, by the time this video comes out, we might have already seen some. I don't know. The DPS writs at the time of recording this are really, really high on parses right now. So it is completely possible they might nerf some passives or something for writ that might spill over to support writ. But right now, this is what it is, and it's a good time. And if you got any questions, problems, thoughts, concerns, or comments about the Ritualist experience and how it affected you, put it in the comment section down below, and I'll fight you there.